Incoming message.
Have you ever thought about doing a yoga class with a 5-foot snake?
Absolutely not.
So this Orange County studio, Kyle, is now offering yoga class where participants can have a snake slithering all around their bodies as they get into these different yoga positions. Now, Kyle, what's your first reaction as you hear about the snake yoga class?
I think about Anaconda and Ice Cube, as I mentioned before. What we learned from that. I think about Snakes on the Plane with Samuel L. Jackson, right? I just think about scenarios where people and snakes just don't belong, you know? Like, I know in the hood, there's always that one dude.
You always know.
In the tank top with the snake around his neck. Like
every summer.
For sure. Like, he's almost like a mascot, right? And a legend in some spaces, if you will. But I don't need that while I do yoga, because in fact, that's not going to be a class I'm going to attend. You said 5 foot? What's going on, fam? This is KR Jones of the Off the Strength podcast, and I am here to tell you to like, listen, subscribe, and if you're feeling freaky, visit offthestrength.com. That's where you can go and get more information on us. That's where we can link, we can build, we can connect, and let's make this thing work.
What's your best get hype? I'm in my bag, stepping into the spot. This is my mode kind of song that you listen to, bro. What gets you in that mode?
Return of the Mac, Mark Morrison.
That's very specific.
It is oddly specific.
Also, you are the oldest, youngest man that I've ever heard.
When that come in, you just know what time it is. She lied to me, but I'm coming back. Like, it's the Return of the Mac. That's how I want to forever be remembered.
That's what's up. What's good, everybody? What's good? Welcome back to yet another episode of Off the Strength, where we're giving you the inside look into all things wellness culture. I'm a trainer called Tony, and of course, with me, I have a gentleman of extraordinary league.
KR Jones is in the building.
That's the Mac right there. That's right, folks. We are back. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of all types from near and far, you are now in store for a treat because it's the return of the variety show. That's when we give you our best foot forward. So hopefully you take your best foot forward. You do that two-step, that tango, whatever it is you need to do to make it on through the week with the best goddamn wellness information available.
Yeah, yay!
Now, Brother Jones, my song right now of late, it's going to be a little more contemporary than you are.
Okay.
I like that Lumberjack from Tyler, the Creator, bro.
That's very specific.
I definitely want that aggressive luxury energy when I'm pulling up because I wait for the day that I can come in, Rolls Royce,
pull up,
all black, bike on the top.
For sure.
And this is how we're getting into the, whatever the venue is. I don't care what it is. I'm pulling up just like that.
I have that energy with none of those things. I just want you to know. So I get it.
Man,
sure.
tell me about your week, man. How you been?
Man, the week could be summarized into, I feel like the word community has just been, it's been slutted out. There's no other way to put it. So I'm going to say tribe support, man. I've been able to, fortunately, have my vibe attract my tribe, man. And from people that I've been running into and crossing to people reaching out to me via messages and all types of love and support that I've just been feeling throughout the week. So I want to definitely appreciate that moment.
Yo, I only can concur with that sentiment, my brother. I definitely have been feeling uplifted by the fly people in the community. I don't know if that's been fully slutted out, like you said.
Listen, man,
I'm
word community, not the community itself. Let's separate those two.
Yeah, well, I'm going to shout out some of these people as long as we keep that separation going, man. So first, I got to shout out to the whole family of women that come from Form Fitness, bro. When I tell you, I've literally watched people follow their lead whenever they come into the gym. It is kind of a hysterical thing to see. It's like, yo, are they really just running a class right now? It's like, oh no, that's not a class. It's just people are just starting to join in. Like, yo, what you doing today? All right, I'm walking like this. I'm going to start doing these lunges. I'm doing box jump, whatever it is. So whenever they step into a place, seeing the resonance that's in that place, I got to salute them for that, man. That's always something that makes me proud.
If the gym is not a playground, man, you're in the wrong space.
Yeah, for sure. That's one of the things that I miss the most about working in that kind of location all the time, when people would just literally tag into whatever you had going on.
Yeah.
Shout out to the good homie Q. Q France out there of the competitive calisthenics and pushing weight worldwide situation. Now, we always see this brother at a wellness event somewhere.
For sure.
And whenever we see that brother, it's always love. So happy to see him. And of course, we ran into him at Solange's event, so we have to shout her out. Shout out Solange, Weed Auntie, who held down that sound bath experience that I definitely want to tap into for the Relax Responsibly a little later on. But the shout outs have to continue, Brother Jones. I got to shout out to brother Brooklyn's own Dennis Pierre.
Okay.
I haven't seen him in a month of Sundays,
Facts.
as you were just talking about. But
I see him online. He be moving though. He on the go.
So tapping in with him and just hearing about where he's been traveling is something that I always find refreshing. And then last but not least, man, talking about having seen somebody and they've been on the go. Man, this very morning, no earlier than today, I had a chance to have a conversation with the good brother Chef Keon Prosper, the Prosper God, at Culture Con, man. And it was the first time I seen that brother since legitimately 2019. Now,
I run into that man like Haley's Comment. Like every once in a while, we catch each other and
see what's going on.
Groundhog's Day, that type of shit.
I gotta let the good listeners out there know that if you are a faithful listener of our show, or if you've listened to any kind of black show that recorded in New York City for, I want to say, the past 6-7 years plus, Chef Keon Prosper has been somebody that was behind the scenes finding a way to make some food for these people that was in there in a lot of different rooms, man.
Yeah.
So I was happy to see him actually fully live his life online first.
Yep.
In a lot of the things that we had conversations about way before they actually happened. So this man has been on Top Chef competitions.
Yep.
He's been a part of his own businesses, or just bustling and seeing him cook for all different types of celebrities and stuff in that nature, man. And I just had a vivid memory, of our conversation before any of that stuff happened. So seeing it play out online and then finally getting to see him, I had to give that brother his flowers. And that was something that really I wanted to tie into this week's ATP, man. And I was talking about having unwavering beliefs.
Okay.
So Colin, thinking about unwavering beliefs, I found myself in a moment of doubt and recently needing to reassess what's important and reassert who I am. Now, I can tell you undoubtedly in all my different wakes and walks of life, I can tell you that I'm a visionary and a community builder. But even better than telling you, Kyle, I can show you that in the acts and in the spaces that I happen to occupy. In the shadow of doubt that I had, I was reminded of my purpose when I look back and actually look at the strengths of the relationships of all the people that I just finished mentioning to you. They've seen me in all the different phases of this be that very same person. So in my reassessment, I reminded myself that the people will always remember how you made them feel, aside from anything else. And in that, reaffirming the fact that I've always been somebody who genuinely wants to see the best come from all the people that are around me and whatever they're doing. And I'm going to try to make myself be in service of whatever that goal might be, right? And the key is going to try to really be able to remember that when you are in the bottom of that bag, so to speak, right? And again, just tapping back into just this very morning, I heard a quote from the TV host and producer Karamo. Are you familiar with who Karamo is?
Not really, maybe.
When you get into that level of the game where you just are known by one name, that's a different level of separation. But, you know, I'll go a little bit more into his details at another time. But this quote hit me so hard, Kyle, I really had to stop and pay attention to what was going on. And he was talking about pay attention to how you talk to yourself when you're alone. And that was kind of what spurred that whole thought around, okay, what kind of music is playing? Like, what's going on? It says a lot about you and how you really feel if you stop and take a look at how you're talking to yourself. And how you talk to yourself will impact how you carry yourself. That all, to me, is going to be something that I look at as emotional resilience and training in that space. Now, Kyle, I want to ask a professional, can working on emotional resilience or mental clarity help you improve your physical outcome or things that are going on outside the body? And if you think so, how does it?
Man, I appreciate you in that question. And it really made me think on this idea of what personal development is, right? I talk to myself like I care about myself, right? Like I want what's my well-being at all costs in every scenario, and how can I be of service, like you mentioned, to other people. When I'm thinking about personal development specifically, it's about elevating your lifestyle, right? Really reaching and maintaining the highest version of yourself consistently. This can only be achieved with a certain level of specificity as well as exclusivity on only your betterment and your benefit, right? The physical health correlation, I think, is simple because all change happens on the inside first. So you have to decide, you have to commit and repetitively show up for yourself mentally, physically, and whether or not you feel like it emotionally, you still got to be there for yourself. And I think examples of this can be seen in how you move, how you eat, how you sleep, how you digest what you're taking in, what you're listening to, like that inner matrix that we speak of, because that is going to dictate your environment, right? Like how you feel on the inside is going to reflect outwardly. Point blank, period. I don't care how you try to keep it in or hold it or suppress what you're actually feeling. Like it can be seen from the outside because it's going to rise above the surface. That's how life works. Now, when it comes to can your emotional resilience directly impact your mental clarity, so to speak, that other question, the short answer is yes, of course it can. The long answer being learning to regulate your emotions and practicing redistribution of your feelings into action takes skill. That's it. That's the tweet. Like, it's not simple. You have to train for that kind of thing. And when you train to get your mind right, the first example that comes to mind to me is a fighter pilot. I'm sorry. So when I think about people that were like in the Army and flying those planes, Tuskegee Airmen, if you will, why not? Let's throw anybody in that realm. But technology has obviously grown, and now you have simulators where they put people in a simulator to show you what G-force at G5 looks like, and you see people face and their skin going all crazy because they have to prepare for what it's going to be like in real life, right? So that type of training has to translate into real life in order for you to prepare for a situation. Shout out to Kenji. We had him on the podcast years ago. I always talk about that, brother, but he talked about scripting your life. If you have a heavy conversation with somebody and you know you need to have it, what does it look like to write out that conversation before it happens so that it can happen in a framework of how you would allow it or like it to happen in the first place? Long-winded rant, but I say that to say that when you force yourself to exposure like that, you're preparing for a real life condition, right? And that is the correlation from the mental resilience into the mental clarity into how you show up physically into the world.
Yeah, man. One tool I would want to leave people with is the ritual of affirmation. And I think that kind of ties in all of that. So, Kyle, when you got the Return of the Mac on, you know, again, you stepping out so
she
fresh and so
lied
clean.
to me.
You're looking in the mirror. Do you have any affirmations you ever hit yourself with?
You that? No.
Go for it.
Yeah, no.
Either HNIC.
I'm working on a better me. A lot of things that I continue to affirm myself with is this too shall pass.
Okay.
That's always one of the go-tos because everything is temporary, despite it feeling permanent or it weighing more in the moment. At some point, it's going to pass, much like waves come in and out of the sand back and forth. So you just got to ride that wave.
Hey, talk to yourself nice and remember that
talk
you
to
are
me nicely.
who you say you are. So make sure you say that you're something special, all right?
Yeah.
And that's going to be it from that episode of Ask the Professional. We're going to move into some good. We're going to move into some bad. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some ugly, Kyle, this week. I want to get into rip from the headlines. And first things out, Kyle, did you hear anything about Athlos NYC?
Of course I did.
All right. Do you want to talk a little bit about what that was?
Man, I am 10 toes down.
Okay.
On the women's track event that Athlos is. I love to see that sport continue to be elevated. One of the main things that I saw when the Olympics was how come this isn't shown more times than Olympic trials and things of that nature. So Meg Thee Stallion was there.
Man.
You got, all types of sponsors for different activations and experiences. So I'm here for it, man.
Yeah, man. So Alexis Ohanian is looking to rebuild his reinvestments in women's sports. So just like you just finished laying out, they did not pull any punches in getting people to come out to the track and really celebrate track and field in a way that is a non-Olympic sport. Not like I've ever seen it before, bro.
Yeah.
It really is kind of painting a picture of how people are moving into the alternative markets for sports, and it's getting bigger and bigger. So just seeing things like a custom Tiffany's & Co. crown for the winners, and that's, product placement and sponsorship.
Bling. Every time I come around your city.
Women getting paid up to $60,000 in cash prizes to be winners. Now, again, going opposite direction of where the Olympics are, you ain't getting that much money straight up unless you have the sponsors and everything else coming across there. So shaking the table a little bit, I see what this interruption is doing in the track and field spaces, and I do see that there's going to be some other sports that will have the same kind of innovation. So we saw a while back that Tiger Woods was leaving the sport of golf on the PGA Tour, but he started his own league as well. Now, it hasn't kind of blown up in the same way, but I'm thinking that you're going to start to see more and more professional athletes who were known for the sport develop their own leagues. What's your thoughts on that?
I'm here for the growth, continued elevation. I think a lot about Ice Cube and the Big Three. The Big Three has grown drastically over the years to the point where the NBA has started to integrate some of the things that they were doing.
Exactly.
So it is a real reflection of the times that we live in, the lay of the land kind of shifting. And I'm here for it, man. Again, I'm looking forward to the runway or the raceway, if you will, to get my ready, set, go on.
Man, they are leveraging female athlete creators on social media as well. You know, I had to shout out alum of the show and friend of the Off the Strength podcast, Jim Bay, Brianna Janae was in there. I feel like whenever there's a Meg fitness thing going on, you can always find Bri out there. So
facts.
Shout out to Bri for everything she got going on.
Hot girl fitness.
I love seeing it, man. I got to salute him every time I see it, man. Now, Kyle, this next one is going to leave people with a little bit of ambiguity inside here. Now, did you know that Amazon Prime Day was coming up?
You know it.
So on Prime Day in particular, Kyle, I don't know if your algorithm looks like my algorithm, but
of course it does.
People keep trying to sell me all different types of wellness, Kyle, and I wanted to cut through some of the noise. There's literally thousands of things that you will see on this list. Now, I want to know if you could tell people, here are the 3 best things that you should get for Amazon Prime Day, and here are the 3 worst things that you should stay away from at all costs on Amazon Prime Day.
It's interesting you should set me up for such a runway, Tony, and I'm going to give you top 3 starting off coming in hot first with the gripper, Tony.
Excuse me?
Yes. Now, when you think about your actual grip.
The hand gripper, yes.
The hand gripper,
working on hand strength. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Working on hand strength, forearm strength to really...
tactile.
Get that dexterity that you need.
It makes sense.
To really lift heavier and things of that nature.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of times people often don't understand how important having strong hands is.
Yeah.
And I think it's often overlooked, if you will. So that's your number one.
It's a direct correlation to your overall strength, for sure. If you can't hold on to heavy things, you probably can't lift heavy things.
You can get that for a nice $9.99. Tell them I sent you. Now, second coming up would be a nice kettlebell, Tony.
Okay.
Now, what if I would tell you you could get a 35-pound kettlebell for $41.99?
That's shipped?
Shipped.
That makes sense to me.
Listen, if you get 2, that's under a $100 piece for you. But I do think kettlebells are very useful around the house. And you'd be surprised at the things you could do with a 35 to get you to where you need to be.
Absolutely. And I definitely had to ask about the ship because it used to be back in the day.
Yeah.
That price for the kettlebell would be one thing.
It depends
and
on
the shipping would be a whole other thing.
With. That's going to be different for everybody. Depending on where you're at. Last but not least, I'm going to just go out there and throw in some natural rubber resistance bands, Tone.
Okay.
Now, resistance bands, again, are one of those things that are very multi-use, multi-planar type of exercises that you can do. So when you get an assortment, that's 4 to 5 different levels that you can work with, and you can never go wrong with colorful resistance bands.
Yo, that's the best bang for your buck. You could truly get a full body karate exercise on no matter where you're at.
$29.99.
The low.
Plus shipping and handling. Now, speaking of the ugly, if you will, Tone, or the bottom 3, we're going to first talk about the Easy Mount Twister. Now, when I say easy mount twister, what comes to mind for you?
It starts to go back into that gripper situation, but I'm going to look at, we are talking about...
Oh, it's a gripper, all right.
I don't know what the hell this is.
That is a trained wellness professional, ladies and gentlemen, and if he can't define it...
I don't know what that is.
You don't need it.
It looked like a wishbone.
For $38.99, you can get an easy mount twister here, which is you should not get...
Stay away from these.
What it is clearly isn't identified, and somebody's going to get hurt.
The gripper to the easy mount twister is a crazy transition.
Sounds like a mini step, which I bring to you next, Tone. The mini stepper is my second piece of equipment that I would not recommend for anybody out there. Let the people know what you're looking at.
This looks like the thing that you threaten physical violence against me for offering to give this to you as a holiday gift.
Very similar to the under your desk treadmill, which is just as nasty. The mini stepper is unsafe cardio that you should not try to get into. Just moving your legs up and down.
It looks like a very unnatural motion.
Is not enough. I promise you, this should not be your product for $49.99. And last to round out this list would be the Sport Near pull-up bar, Tony. Now, I know you have had a pull-up bar in the crib.
Yeah.
Tell me about this one that you're looking at specifically.
This is the one that ends up making most people have to visit the chiropractor for the rest of their life.
America's Funniest Home Videos.
This is always the one that
or
gets
TikTok. That's really what America's Funniest Home Videos has turned into. Will be your ass on your back if you try to put this type of, mount in your situation.
Yeah, the pressure-loaded spring mount that it only adheres to the side of the door.
Yep.
I'm going to go ahead and let you know that most modern doors are not made to withstand your weight plus the force of you pulling up and down.
The force will not be with you.
It ends tragically every time.
So that's my top and bottom three for you right there, ladies and gentlemen.
I appreciate you keeping everybody up to date, Kyle. And I appreciate you letting people know what to look out for. Now, Kyle, knowing what to look out for is going to be the premise of this last thing that I have and ripped from the headlines. Now, this is coming to you from ABC7 Los Angeles, Kyle. There is a new class that is taking the world by storm. And Kyle, at Costa Mesa, you can do a yoga class that is unlike any other type of yoga class that you've seen before.
Interesting. How
Kyle,
so?
Have you ever thought about doing a yoga class with a 5-foot snake?
Absolutely not.
So this Orange County studio, Kyle, is now offering yoga class where participants can have a snake slithering all around their bodies as they get into these different yoga positions. Now, Kyle, what's your first reaction as you hear about the snake yoga class?
I think about Anaconda and Ice Cube, as I mentioned before. What we learned from that. I think about Snakes on the Plane with Samuel L. Jackson, right? I just think about scenarios where people and snakes just don't belong, Like, I know in the hood, there's always that one dude.
You always know.
In the tank top with the snake around his neck. Like
every summer.
For sure. Like, he's almost like a mascot, right? And a legend in some spaces, if you will. But I don't need that while I do yoga, because, in fact, that's not going to be a class I'm going to attend. You said 5 foot?
A 5-foot snake.
There's just people out here that's not even 5 feet. Like, there's some people that's like 4'11" that technically are small people.
Now, do you think this would have any kind of help with you focusing on how to regulate your breathing or your heart rate?
No, because it's going to be murder in there. It's going to be a very uneasy situation. How much would such an experience cost me, Tony?
Now, Kyle, you get to take this class with 6 pythons that are only handled... 6.
Like after 5.
They're only handled when there's no true, extensive movement going on, right? Both for the safety of participants and the snakes. You got to make sure you look out for everybody that's in there. Kyle, this class, now, how much would you normally pay for a drop-in rate at a hot yoga class or something like that?
Depending on where you at, you drop in a 45, 60 piece.
Would you sit in this class for $140?
That's absolutely not times 2.
To be around and supported by the pythons inside here, Kyle.
It's absolutely not times 3. That is cubed at this point. I'm not fucking with it, all right? It's fuck out of here, you know what I'm saying? In the words of Mello and Miro, no.
Costa Mesa is where you're going to have to pull up and get this, Kyle, and that's going to be
Sound like they need to be shut down. There ain't no pulling up. They need to be shut down.
That's it from my side of the good, the bad, and the ugly. What's your thoughts or what did you see happening in these fitness streets this week, bro?
That was crazy. I don't want nothing to do with snakes in my yoga class.
Snakes on a plane, snakes on the mat. That's where we're taking it.
None of those movies ended well for anybody. Now, you did take us to California, so I'm going to take us back there. And some good news that I saw, Tone. Now, I would like to think that I identify as a canna athlete. You know, I've been teaching a mindful marijuana use class for like the last 4 years. For me, teaching stretching as well as yoga, right? Now, when I'm looking at Forbes, there was a headline I saw this week about California and cannabis cafes being legalized.
Okay.
Right now, legislators and the governor has signed a bill into law. This was last week about legislation allowing licensed cannabis retailers and micro businesses in California to sell non-cannabis food and beverages and host live performances in areas designed for on-site cannabis consumption. pending local approval.
Yeah, so this is pivotal for a couple of reasons. One, I like the idea of you reading Forbes magazine. That's always something that I'm a champion.
You know, from time to time, I got to get my paper up.
Two, I'm going to tap into maybe a little bit behind the scenes of what the New York cannabis spaces are looking like. You cannot have a combined space right now. It's technically illegal for you to have the consumption of any kind of cannabis on premise for most of the spaces that are open.
Yeah.
October is when they're trying to open up the consumption lounges. And even then and there's going to be a strict separation between your traditional food and beverage laws and what you can do with cannabis inside of those spaces. So seeing California as a lead indicator of what is going to eventually happen in New York, I do think that we'll eventually get into that side of the market too, where we're all going to be having spaces like Amsterdam, you know, where those cafes have been prevalent over there for years. So I'm happy to hear that California is leading the way, and I'm waiting for NYC to follow.
I couldn't agree more, man. I do want to triple down on the laws and legislation behind it. It still prohibits, like you said, the sale of products, but you can potentially smoke on site and have consumption in a space where there's live music. It'll be a different section, similar to how there used to be a smoking section back in the day, which was crazy. Like you go to a diner or whatever, you want smoking or non-smoking. You see that whole cloudy ass room in there, people smoking them. The Marlboro, what's it called? The Newports?
Yeah, all
Newport
of them.
100s, the Marlboros, whatever them shits is called.
Marlboro, yeah.
Yeah, that shit. You know what I mean? Sliding out of that tone, I do want to stay in the weed section for a little bit because there was a beverage that I saw. Now, you know, I would like to think the good brothers of the Off the Strength, you and I would like to be open to such sponsorships, if you will. So, Tone, if you had 10 seconds right now to pitch to a cannabis and mushroom beverage company called Breeze, how would you let them know about Off the Strength?
First things first, I need to understand what Breeze does and what mushrooms is coming along.
I just told you, brother, that it's cannabis and mushrooms in a can.
I understand.
In a beverage. It's legal to ship. Tell them right now in the camera.
So as somebody who's experienced in both of those worlds, I need to know which mushrooms. Again, I'm going to come back to that. Because sometimes you take the red pill,
for sure,
it'll lead you in one direction. You take the blue pill, it'll lead you in a whole other direction.
Purple pill.
No.
For the highest mountain.
I do like the idea of the alternative beverage market expanding. And there's definitely a whole host of different things that I would get behind and try to understand how to be a part of. Because the anti-alcohol movement is going further and further. And people still want to have that good social buzz while they're able to, you know, mix and mingle with some other folks, get that social lubrication, if you will.
Sobriety.
So if Breeze is doing it,
it's different these days.
I'm here for a good summer breeze.
Okay.
What kind of flavors are we talking about, though?
Listen,
you know, I need to get into that.
I'm not going to dive into Breeze just yet and their flavor profiles, but we can and we will. Breeze, if we connect. And
send it.
You represent Off the Strength Podcast, and we can represent y'all. Now, there is a single, a double, a duo, and a flow, Tony. So I'm not going to get into the flavors, but just know that there is a variety of things that you can dive into.
Speaking of which, I have been diving into some of those alternative beverages on the market.
Okay.
Fam, you can calmly walk into a Key Food and get a iced tea that will have you on the moon.
For sure.
So you definitely got to understand.
I've been there.
The dosages that are on there.
The nerve of the can. It was called like Recess or something like that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like,
it was like, oh.
As a connoisseur.
We taking a break.
You got to understand what the dosages are on there. You know, so I've seen from 5 all the way up to 50. And I'm talking about in a grocery store. This ain't in a dispensary nowhere. This is regular shelf.
You can put it in the can.
Walk in, walk out.
Walk out with it.
Make sure you understand what comes along with that 50 piece, because that will send you in a whole different direction, as I have seen a good brother of mine one day have an interaction with a 50 piece and took him on the other side of the game.
Know your dosage, ladies and gentlemen, because it can be detrimental to your health without it. Now, speaking of health, Tone, I'm going to slide into something that I saw this week. A brand that goes by the name Protection, Tony. Now, when I speak of protection, what comes to mind for you?
This is very on the nose with the name. It is a shin and calf guard, the Protection.
Exactly.
Somebody was very pun invested over here.
You see what happened there?
I see it. And it also looks like a graduated soccer shin guard.
For the folks that did not play soccer like I did when you were younger, soccer players often wear shin guards from getting kicked in the front of their shin because that can be very painful. This looks very similar to a soccer shin guard that you would put in front of your shin as well as on the back of your shin on your calf muscle to protect you while you bike from things like your pedal that could spin back and hit your shin or your calf at any given moment.
Now, if you're not doing BMX or something that is extreme in the riding, this is going to look a little crazy. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to go out
it
there.
goes under your socks. If you got pants on, nobody knows.
And he's got that knot underneath his sock.
It's half in, half out. 1 foot in, 1 foot out, if you will.
You never want that in anything.
For sure. Listen, man, I'm here for protection.
Okay.
At all costs.
If I see you wearing those, you're going to need some more protection.
Let's take it easy there. Now, speaking of protection, you know what I'm saying? But watch how you talk to me. Let's take a step into the direction of Mad Fitness Studio in North Carolina, Tone. Now, I showed you this earlier, but what do you think about the Soulja Boy step class?
First of all,
it's an aerobic step class all to Soulja Boy's music. Now, not only are they listening to his music doing the Soulja Boy, cranking that, they all have on their 2000s fit. So white tees, white hats,
big
white
shorts.
shades, jorts, if you will. You know what I'm saying? Fresh white Air Forces. How you feel about this?
This looks like a great place to go get a lineup, is the first comment that I have to make out of that.
Okay.
You
want to expand on that, brother?
Nah, I'm just leave it like that.
Okay.
you absolutely.
I don't know what you're lining up. That is a trainer called Tony. What else do you see?
You get some great hair care is what I'm saying in this class, judging by the individuals that are participating in it.
All right.
You will find that most of the people that are doing this, they are a very particular type, and I'll leave that to you to decide which that type is.
All right.
Aside from that, I'm happy to see people moving. I don't care what they moving to. I don't care how they moving. They cranking that, man. I gotta salute them doing that. I don't know how many weeks in a row you're gonna do that.
It's a theme class. It changed week to week. I used to be on the committee that would select music for a yoga studio back in the day, so I'm here for a good theme. If you had to teach the Tony Vidal aerobics class, what's the music? What's the theme you're using right now on the spot?
The theme that I'm using, so I have to pick a person to be themed around?
It's you. It's the theme. What's the theme?
The theme would be, I don't know. I really don't have like a person that I want to embody and act like.
You wouldn't
off
even
the top of my head.
You wouldn't even have the salsa step class. That's crazy. That was
that
a
ain't in my
layup
bag,
for you,
bro.
I know you got the shirt for it.
I've taken salsa classes.
Speaking of dressing
but I ain't
up,
teaching that one.
Speaking of dressing up in costumes, if you will, Tony, we are in the month of October. So at the end of the month, there's Halloween. And Halloween elicits a different reaction out of everybody.
Yeah.
If you grew up in the Jehovah's Witness side, a lot of y'all ain't really celebrate that. It was associated with the devil. If you was in between, you might have been dressing up with the costumes. Like it's a spectrum, if you will, of how people feel about this holiday.
I definitely could agree to that.
Now, when you get into the prosthetic bag, Tone, I'm talking full-on makeup and things that are irregular or unnatural, if you will, to the human eye, but you want to put it on, much like movie makeup, if you will.
Okay.
How would you feel about SZA putting on an insect prosthetic for her Hot Ones interview?
I feel like this is definitely something that you could only pull this off being so attractive. You never see anybody that's on the other side of that attractive spectrum really trying to push it in a different direction. But you can get the roach look off if you are somebody that
two antenna
go after.
There's bug eyes, literally.
It's a wild look.
We talked about personal development earlier.
Yeah.
Where's the development in this?
You got to be so confident. This is what I'm trying to tell you. You got to be so confident in how you look on the regular that you're like, I could look ugly for a day on a national syndicated situation.
This is very a Bug's Life-esque, if you will. It really took me down a rabbit hole of
it's great makeup.
There's not enough black cartoons that we have. Like, we just don't have that type of showcasing. I also vividly remember Trinidad James having a prosthetic at some point of like a eye dropping out of his face. Like it was a wild time when you like to present it to the world that way.
I like people that get into their Halloween bag and like really stretch it out and try to like be committed. And then some people do put a lot of energy.
This happened in September.
Yeah,
we talking about it early October, but she was early to the party.
She was inventing a whole nother reason to have a costume on. It's a hell of a way to break into an interview and make somebody else like have to figure that out. I don't know if they acknowledged it at all. I actually hope they didn't say anything about why she showed up looking like that on that day in particular. I hope they skipped that in the interview process because that would make it even that much funnier. You don't even know if that's truly SZA. It's just kind of like the other key things will let you know that that's her.
The body double.
But Kyle, I will see you on prosthetics, and I will raise you. Now I want you to check your messages because I just sent you one that I thought was going to be tying into this story in particular. Now, Kyle, there has been a particular conversation around costuming this year that I think is going to be kind of hysterical when you see this. Now, can you let the good listeners know what it is that you're looking at right now in terms of prosthetics for costumes coming down the line this year?
For Halloween this year, for the small price of $23.99, you could, in fact, visit Fashion Nova Men and get yourself a BBL booty butt pad costume accessory in the nude so you could dress up like Drake BBL Drizzy.
There we go. Now, what do you think of that aesthetic? And those prosthetics, I should say.
See, the issue I find here...
You can throw the cheeks on, Kyle. BBL Drizzy.
is I don't know what is included and what's not. It just says the cheeks, but there's a hoodie that says Poppy as well as the Smino-like hairstyle. If you get the wig with the barrettes and the hoodie and the cheeks, you might be in for something, man. I don't know. I feel like $23.99, it just got to be the cheeks and the rest is on you.
You getting the hair. No, you get the cheeks and the hair.
The hair and Poppy hoodie sold separately. I think that it is a nasty world that we've come to. And I don't look forward to Halloween this year.
I saw your prosthetics and I checked raise you, my friend. How do you feel about that?
I'm going to raise the bar now. I'm going to slide out of that and leave whatever you're talking about, BBL Drizzy, scissor prosthetics. We're going to put it in a little box, right? And we're going to throw that shit in the middle of the ocean. And you got to be Jack motherfucking Cousteau to get that out the ocean.
I need to watch the new Bad Boys.
I ain't watching it until it's free in the streaming. They ain't getting none more of my money. I already paid for it. Now, raising the bar this week. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of all type from near and far, you now in store to raise your bar. Now, Brother Tone,
yes, sir.
We have been on a wild ride of this podcast, man. One day, people going to appreciate the vastness of the things we cover and topics and how we still manage to uplift everybody, and give them a little inspiration. I was thinking about the podcast, man, and somebody always want to ask you what the podcast is like when you talk about it, right? And it's like, man, it's so many different things that we do. It's hard to sum it up. And then I realized we've been saying it from the very beginning for a very long time, brother. In the intro, it says, put your best foot forward.
Yeah.
That's what this podcast is about. It's what it's always been about. Is how do you present that personal development we talked about, putting your best foot forward every day, when you don't want to, when you don't feel like it. And it brought me to this idea of running the play that works.
Okay.
Right? You know me. I'm always in my sport bag. I'm always going wax poetic about that because that's the lane that I come from. Now, faithful listeners of the show will know I always talk about the $46 sweep.
Okay.
We really ran that play in high school, fam. It was a sweep. I had to block on that job. My job was to go and get the linebacker or the corner, whoever was on the end, make it tight so we could get those yards. If I was going to catch the ball, it was the tight end waggle. I was always open. Nobody guarded the tight end in high school sports. It was crazy, right? If I think about hooping, I was running a Duke offense. I was coming off the screen like Rip Hamilton in the mid-range, getting that every time. You hear that little... right there, that was the net, Tony. That's for the people that don't know I was out here really running plays.
So there's two things that I never want you to do again.
What's up, man?
I never want you to make the basketball net sound. I'm glad you identified that. And I never want you to talk about the tight end waggle. Nowhere near here. We're getting that out of this show.
Coming from the man that was nose guard and center. Those are the obvious two nasty positions that you played. That you want to talk about me and my tight end waggle.
You did the tight end waggle to get your sweet treat today. We're really going back it.
See how we let that die right there? We're just going to slide on into the deeper dive about this mindset that can translate into the game of life. Now, we do talk about the gamification of life, right? What happens when you play at your highest level? I think about running plays in a real sense as behavioral changes, right? What's the behavior like when you're in pursuit of something? What's your behavior like when you fail at a task, much like you talked about earlier? How are you talking to yourself when you're down, when you're not feeling right? How do you identify the weakest or most vulnerable parts of your game and improve them? Right now, I had a coach back in the day. Ironically, his name was Coach Tony. Coach Tony was a G, man. He was the coach for my JV basketball team for my 9th and 10th grade year. I remember him giving a ride home one day after practice, and we had Jay-Z bumping. That was when he dropped the shit that got the prelude. It was American Gangster.
Okay.
Man, that was an album at the time. But nonetheless, I bring up Coach Tony because he would never let us say my bad in practice. If somebody messed up, it was real easy to be like, yo, my fault. And if you said that, that was 10 push-ups. If you kept saying it, you had to do even more push-ups. And it forced you to take accountability, but also to move on to the next play. Because you can't sit and worry about my bad. Stop saying my bad. Change your behavior. So that was a lesson that always stuck with me. And then most recently, I saw an interview with Jaylen Brown, and he was speaking about guarding players in the NBA. And he compared his opponents as musical rhythms, right? So he basically said that each player has movement that's like a song that's playing. And your job is to identify not only what song is playing, but when the beat is going to drop. Right, and he spoke specifically about guarding Luka Doncic versus Kyrie Irving. He was like, "Yo, Luka's music is real slow, but you can anticipate it. Somebody like Kyrie is a little more sped up, a little sporadic, so you got to anticipate when that beat's going to drop." Now, to me, that sounds like a play that worked for Jaylen Brown. Right, it made him a champion, and the age-old saying is defense wins championships. You know what I'm saying, Brother Tone? It brings me to you. My question to you, off the strength, would be, what's a consistent play that's worked in your playbook that you religiously go back to?
One of the plays that I find myself running today, especially, Kyle, is getting back to the basics. And for that, it's...
Expand on that a little bit. What's the basics?
So, to me, it's on the wake up, the basic start.
Okay.
You leave the room.
Top of the morning, if you will.
Bed's not made. What's going on in the situation? Like, I'm very much hey, my surroundings are going to dictate to me what my internal thoughts are going to feel like. So I got to get down to the basics of, hey, I want to leave the house feeling like when I come back home, it's a place of peace. So I got to make sure that that looks solid. I want to, before I step out the door, I want to make sure that I'm looking at myself in a way that I feel that level of confidence stepping back up. I want to make sure that I'm walking with a certain level of assertion. So I need to move a certain way throughout the course of my day to feel that way. I need to get back into the most basics forms of my lifting kind of patterns, of my cardio exercise. I need to get back to the basics of, I'm going to reach out and talk to these people specifically. Getting lost in the complicated stuff sometimes and only thinking about where you are relative to, what you're trying to get to kind of dilutes some of the practices that you had to do to get to that specific point, So going all the way back to the follow-throughs, the cold calls, the outreach, all the little steps, the micro things that you can pick up along the way. Getting back to the basics is never forgetting all of those little pieces as you're trying to make that next evolution.
Word. I mean, you laid out a lot, but that's a lot of basics. The main thing that came up for me through that was routine, was ritualism, and it was identifying what these specific acts do. I think that very much comes from the idea of macro programming and micro programming and really starting to scale your life. People oftentimes talk about scaling their businesses and what it takes to do that, but are you scaling your life on that same scale, right? Are you taking the time to really incrementally plot out what your mile markers for success are going to look like, your mile markers for failure? And at the end of the day got to end. No, I'm sorry. No, at the end of the day, what's that play, right? Mm-hmm. That you can come back to and consistently run. If it's the wake up, make sure the bed is made, man. Shout out to Kenneth Richard Jones, man. I couldn't leave a house without the bed being made. And if it didn't grow under there, it couldn't be under the bed. I talked about that previously. You know what I'm saying?
I'm still very confused that, like...
You and me both. Imagine trying to figure that out at 13. If it don't grow under the bed, it shouldn't be there. What? What? I was just confused the whole time, confuzzled, if you will. Man, but... Sliding out of the Raising the Bar segment this week, we're going to step into a little relax responsibly segment. Now, I'm not going to do what I usually do, freak out, man.
Excuse me?
All I want to know is who's coming with me.
It's a relaxation destination.
It's a relaxation destination. And this Relax Responsibly segment is brought to you by myself, that is KR Jones, and I'm going to talk a little bit about frequency movement.
Okay.
Frequency movement is the studio where I teach my elevated yoga class. It's where you can come and elevate your movement pattern. We can explore different shapes, and we can synchronize our breath with movement, all under a musical vibe and a pre-roll by me, yourself, and the music that's selected. I'm top 2 and I'm not 2 when it comes to these playlists and these jams, just letting the folks know. But I do teach every Saturday at 11 a.m. at Frequency Movement, so come kick it with your boy.
I love to hear it, man. Okay, how was you relaxing this week, my brother?
Man, I was relaxing this week with, I talked about earlier running into people, right? Now, I've been injured. I let that be known on the record, and I think a huge part of my recovery in this injury process is my vulnerability of allowing people to see me hurt. I think that's something that, as a black man in this world, visibly struggling is not something that you really want to do. But I do think that there's power in that. And people have seen me, man, and it's been folks that I haven't seen in years that I'm crossing paths with, and I don't even have to explain what happened. They've seen it online, they heard it from somebody else, and there's been nothing but empathy, there's been nothing but love and support along this journey. So I'm extremely grateful for that, and I've been able to relax knowing that, people care about your boy, man, like real talk. And that only comes as a result of the love that I've showed them through their life, through their support. I vicariously keep up with as many people as I can online and see the things that you post that the algorithm would allow me to, you know what I'm saying? But for the most part, it is very welcoming to be a part of a tribe of folks that you can pick up wherever you left off and continue to grow.
Man, I feel just replenished even hearing that for you, my brother. I'm very happy to hear that.
It's been love, man. I can't complain. How were you relaxing responsibly this week?
I was relaxing responsibly this week, as we indicated earlier. Kyle, we had a chance to kick off that community care recap with Weed Auntie Solange, none other than herself, man. And I got to be honest with you, we didn't get the whole experience because we record live on the Block of the Rock on a Saturday as well.
It's a busy day.
Saturdays are usually super booked and busy in things wellness created, but I was happy to hear that the somatic harmonies, the acupressure, and meditations were all happening while we were getting our vibes on. There's people of a like mind having these same vibes downtown, man. And when we did get there, we did arrive. We were welcomed by some of the sights of the people that we know, we trust, and we have already shared space with in this community. And that only reaffirmed the fact that the cannabis wellness community is alive and well, Kyle.
That it is.
You get to see different presenters. Shout out to the Polanco brothers over there. Their dispensary lead up had that whole huge the pointed display.
The kiosk.
The little kiosk that you could order and get your stuff delivered right to the house. I wasn't mad at them. I got to shout out to Wana Brands, too, that had a whole host of different wellness-specific products that they were telling us about. And I'm sure that we're going to be able to tap in with them as well. So I have to salute to Solange for curating these type of events because, man, the relaxation doesn't even come from the product. It's being reaffirmed in that space that, everybody here is on the same type of time. And they let you know in some of the conversations that are happening off mic exactly what type of time it is, man. So shout out to her and shout out to everybody that she brings together in those spaces, man, because it do be relaxing, Kyle.
The weed connoisseur typically tends to be the more laid-back individual. There's other drugs out there, but you can typically spot a weed head and y'all can vibe and find the common thread a lot more or a lot sooner than most.
It's the unwritten rules, you just give the nod. It's like, all right.
Yeah, you got bud, you got papers?
You got a lighter. I know you do. It's like
facts.
How'd you know?
Every time.
We're part of the tribe, Kyle. It's easy to identify, man.
Yeah, it's actually a scissor lighter, if you will. No prosthetic, though. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, you got the ant lighter on you?
Yeah, no ants.
You got to throw the bug on you, man.
I don't even know what that is, bro, but the scissor lighter is available.
So after we get out of the relaxation situation, my brother, I can only hold hope for the next upcoming week. Now, Kyle, how are you being hopeful this week, man?
Man, I'm hopeful this week and everyone taking an investment in their own personal development. Whatever that looks like for you, we spoke about the Mental Health Day and just the Mental Health Awareness Month coming up and things of that nature. Whatever that next level of life needs to be for you, I'm hoping you take not one but two steps in that direction.
Man, and as you take those steps in the direction, one of my hopefuls this week, Kyle, is I'm really hopeful to just keep seeing the people that I know and love shine like as bright as possible, bro. Like I want to celebrate those wins and those mile markers and the progressions in everybody that I see around me's life as expressionate and as out in the open as possible. I don't think we really do champion people like they should. So I got one more person to champion. I got to shout out my brother Jason Colon for being the photographer over at KIF right now. He just did a whole photo shoot with Jalen Brunson, New York's own, inside there. And I'm like, yo, if you know my brother like I know him,
JB,
he's been doing this same thing since we were like 14 years old.
Yeah.
He's been
at a high level.
At a high level for sneaker culture and all the rest of that. He's not going to be one of the people that you see the name all the time.
Makes a hell of a cocktail, too.
It damn sure it does, man. Intentionality, you know?
For
artists
sure.
in all these different disciplines. So I got to salute situations like that when I see it and be like, yo, I've seen the whole arc of what this looked like. And I'm so happy to see him continue to thrive. And I can't wait to keep celebrating everybody that's in that tribe that's a part of our collection, man.
Shout out to Jake Cologne. When you hear this, we need to break bread expeditiously, and I want to see you before the Super Bowl. If not, see you at the Super Bowl.
Yeah, there we go. You know it's always going to be a good party over there, man.
Every time.
Can't let people down, man. Now, if people out there wanted to get in touch with us, Kyle, where would they go and how do they actually tap in with what we got going on?
They can find us on Instagram at @offthestrength_, or if you're in the greatest city in the world, Tone, that is New York City. Sometimes you can come on down to Rockefeller Center where you can see us record live at Newsstand Studios at the block of the Rock, on the bottom of the Rock, if you will. Now, if you skid money and you can't make it out here or you live far away, you could always visit Instagram at Rockefeller Center or X at Rock Center NYC.
That's right. And of course, we are also being brought to you in part by the good brother Brian Perkins, and I did that production. Now, KR Jones, I'm not going to ask you if you have anything else that you want to leave the people with this week. Kyle,
okay.
I want to know what you are hoping to see at Culture Con, because that's where we're checking in immediately after we leave here. What are you looking forward to see, or what are you hopeful for seeing at this year's Culture Con NYC?
You know, I don't like to set my expectations too high.
Okay.
But I do feel like it's one of those events that will bring out the beautiful blacks.
Okay.
I do feel like I am indeed a beautiful black.
They definitely are there, and you are such.
So I would like to mix and mingle with the most and the highest of the high and see them later as the night in Brooklyn progresses. But I'm really hopeful to see the people that don't live in Brooklyn that I flew in this weekend and want to get a chance or experience the culture and the nightlife of Brooklyn.
Yeah, man.
So I'm here for that.
I like to see the long-lasting Brooklynites still pop up inside the mix. You know what I mean? Some of the people that you know are always going to be here, always true and through. And I like to see that the people who are curating this event went out and actually found some people out there, man. So I definitely, one person got a shout out again as I finish these last shout outs. Homie Harvey from Bias and Leon was definitely inside a pop-up over there. And I was like,
sir.
hey, that's a Bed-Stuy native right there. We got to salute that when we see that, man.
Yeah.
Happy to see it thrive. Happy to see it going, man. I'm only looking for more.
Much love. I got up with that brother last night and we was talking about it. You know what I'm saying? So definitely looking forward to seeing the community.
Absolutely, man. Once again, it's been another fantastic episode of Off the Strength. I'm a trainer called Tony.
KR Jones.
Peace and much love to y'all out there. Until next time, we'll see you soon. Peace. What's good, everybody? I'm a trainer called Tony, and I am here from the infamous Off the Strength podcast, asking you today, listeners, viewers, wherever you may be, to please like, listen, and subscribe to our podcast. This is how we're going to continue to be able to deliver you the best goddamn wellness information out here. So if you want to keep hearing this and you want us to keep growing, you are a part of this show just as much as anything else. So please go to offthestrength.com. Make sure you check out our blogs. Make sure you check us out on IG. And if you're hearing this voice and you didn't hit that subscribe button, know that Kyle is going to come looking for you.
You got that right.